Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast, powered by Healthy Steps Nutrition Mentoring. At HSN, our mission is to empower 1 million people to take control of their health, one step at a time, so they can prevent and reverse chronic disease. We know that healthcare is proactive, sick care is reactive. When we think about helping our clients become the best and healthiest versions of themselves, it isn't just about what they eat or going to the gym a few hours a week. We have to focus on a holistic approach, addressing nutrition, stress management, sleep, mindset, support system, and of course, exercise. My name is Nicole Coyne, and I'm the founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, home of CrossFit HSN and HSN Mentoring. In this podcast, you're going to learn how to take one step at a time to build a successful nutrition coaching program. I am so excited about today's podcast guest. Her name is Athena Perez, and we take a deep dive into addressing support systems, specifically with a population that is of larger bodies, people that have 100 plus pounds to lose. One of the things that we love to do at HSN Mentoring is empower gym owners and coaches to create healthcare partnerships with doctors and local healthcare professionals who are part of this revolving door, and they're not set up to be able to support clients and their patients with lifestyle interventions focusing on behavior change. By making partnerships with healthcare professionals, you can serve these people that need the help the most. And when we think about the referrals that come from doctors' offices, the people that need help with lifestyle interventions and behavior change, most of them have 100 plus pounds to lose. So understanding this population, specifically how to address support system, is really vital. Super excited for us to dive into this one piece of the puzzle in the Healthy Steps Nutrition Framework support system with larger body athletes. We will get to this podcast right after this message. Did you know that Athena Perez is coming to Healthy Steps Nutrition HQ, our CrossFit location, to host a larger body seminar? It is going to be an incredible one-day event. It is going to be on November 9th. You can check the show notes. We have a code for $50 off. Super excited about this seminar. My husband and I, Jason, will be taking this seminar as well. So you can join us. We'll give you a tour of our HQ location. And on Sunday, we are going to have a panel discussion talking about how to partner with healthcare professionals. This is a huge piece of the puzzle when we think about serving our community and empowering health. Many times when we look at starting a nutrition program in a gym, yes, of course, we start with the members in our gym. But when we look at creating a greater impact, we have to look at the people outside of the four walls of our gym, and healthcare partnerships are a really amazing opportunity to do so. So I hope to see you at this larger body seminar at CrossFit HSN on November 9th. Click the link in the show notes to purchase your ticket and for a coupon code for $50 off. All right, let's dive into this episode with Athena. Athena, welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast. Super excited to have this conversation today.
Always a pleasure. I was excited to come back for this one.
So I sent you a message the other day. I think it was on a flight to London, and I just started thinking about support system, and something that really struck a chord with me is you were talking about support system at the Gym Accelerator Summit last year. We were on a panel, and then you led a breakout session, which people came up to me afterwards and they're like, Nicole, that was amazing. I love her. That's awesome. I can't wait to take the course. I'm like, cool. But you were talking specifically about support system in regards to working with larger body athletes. And I wanted to have a podcast on this topic because I think it's not talked about enough with nutrition coaches and just coaches in general. This piece of the puzzle needs to be addressed. But before we dive into that, because this is going to be a really fun conversation, for the people that are listening to this that haven't had an opportunity to get to know you yet and what you're an advocate for, can we just start there?
Yeah. Well, golly, I was like, where do I start? CrossFit came about in a very unique way for me, but I started CrossFit back in 2017, joined my first box. And as I came into CrossFit, I was close to 500 pounds. I wasn't looking at CrossFit as anything other than, well, maybe it can help me get off the cane and the walker that I was on. And that was the only goal that I had But I started working with a coach, and within a couple of months was in the regular CrossFit classes, and it just became a part of my life, like it does with, all of us. And over the next couple of years, I lost a couple 100 pounds. We're still on that journey today. Um, Later became an affiliate owner of Scaled Nation CrossFit. And then we created a course called Working with Larger Bodies. And we go to affiliates all over the country and we talk about how to best work with the larger body demographic. We all talk about, hey, we cure, chronic disease and we cure obesity, and yet we still have trouble understanding really the nuances of this demographic. And so that's what our course is designed to do, is to get more people into CrossFit, using CrossFit to battle obesity. So that's a little bit about that background.
You are really leading the way. You're so open and vulnerable about your own journey, which I think helps a lot of people understand that this is a topic they need to learn more about.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's the way it was for me. Like I've watched you from afar and I've gotten to know you. We've worked together closely over the
Yeah.
past year, and I think your journey has inspired me. And, as an affiliate owner, or coach, the people that I love to serve the most are not the people that are the elite athletes that are competing. It's the people like you who, maybe are using some type of assistance to help walk or really struggle to get around the block. And we can help them make significant life change, because it's not only impacting them, but it's likely impacting their families too, to,
Yeah.
to really empower health. And if our mission is to help 30 million people as CrossFit, 30 million people by 2030 get healthy and prevent and reverse chronic disease, we have to fundamentally understand how to help this population.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love to do is work with doctors to have them refer their clients to us. And many of them are severely overweight and struggling, and understanding how to, of course, address the nutrition, but also the exercise pieces is super powerful. Your course talks a lot about modifications of movements and a lot of other things, but support system is something that I want to focus on today.
Mm-hmm.
So, they say we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Let's just start there.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about support system with larger body athletes and people that have to lose or need to lose 100 plus pounds.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, the caveat is this is really applicable to anybody, but we
Yeah.
definitely see the support system um, pros and cons in this demographic, I think, more than any of the others. I think when we're talking about the 5 people, it couldn't be more true, especially for people that have had obesity since they were very, very young. We grow up, we watch our parents, we are going to emulate whatever that immediate circle is. We adopt the food choices, the family traditions, all of that thing we learn from the time that we're very young. And as we get older, when there is a desire for somebody to get healthy and they come from a circle where historically we don't emphasize or prioritize health, that can be probably one of somebody's biggest challenges or barriers to getting healthy, because it's a very personal part of the journey that most people don't talk about. And it's because it can be very contentious. Somebody that wants to start getting healthy, it changes the dynamics of your family members. It can change the dynamics of friendships, people that, obviously part of your family, but people that you've been friends with too for long periods of time. They know you one way, and that's the person that they know and they love and they're comfortable with. And all of a sudden, somebody wants to make the decision to get healthy. They change that dynamic. And then suddenly, it threatens unintentionally, familial relations or best friendships, and it can change everything. And it's enough, especially when you're talking about sometimes those support systems can be very small. When there's a break in one of those relationships, it's enough to scare somebody to say, you know what, this isn't worth it. It's not worth the headache I'm getting. It's not worth the fighting. It's not worth these problems that we're having. And it's enough for somebody to back off and say, I don't want to risk that. And that's what we see a lot.
I remember on the panel discussion, you had mentioned divorce rates
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
people. What is that stat again?
So say for instance, you have a couple and they decide, one of them decides that they want to lead a healthier life, and the other
Mhm.
one is not on board. The
Mm.
statistic says that 65% of the time, 65 to 70% of the time, it will end up in divorce, one way or the other. And it's
Wow.
mind boggling that it would be that high, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, you think about what you said a couple minutes ago. They love
Mm-hmm.
you a certain
Mm.
way, and that when you're changing and prioritizing health, probably some of the habits that you guys do, the lifestyle choices that you make together are gonna have to change. And if one person's not on board with that, I could see it causing friction and tension. What about friendships? Are there some statistics around friendships, and weight loss or any other things that,
I don't know if I've ever been able to find statistics on friendships or be able to quantify what that is. I know that
yeah,
it's happened to me personally, and most of the people, when we talk about our course and that group of 800 larger bodies that were part of that course creation, giving all the feedback and doing all the surveys, 80% it had happened with them as well. I had
wow,
when I started my journey back in 17, I had somebody that had been my best friend for over 20 years. We went to high school together. I thought we were thick as glue, Emus and Andy, frickin' frack, yin and yang, arm and hammer, the whole thing, and
yeah,
and I thought we would be able to survive anything. And then we started the journey together. In about 4 months, she decided, it wasn't for her. No big deal. I
yeah,
continued. And then by the end of that first calendar year, the conversations started changing. And it was, I don't know why you're calling me. You have all your CrossFit friends now. And in the beginning, it was very, it was in Minnesota, we call it, passive aggressive, like it was very passive aggressive. And I thought it was just, my best friend being moody or whatever. But it continued and it grew and it grew and it grew. And then finally it got to the point where she's like, I don't have time for this anymore. You don't have time for me. That's it, the end. And it took a really long time when that happened to understand it had very little to do with me.
yeah,
Will I admit that I had probably changed? Yes. How can something like that not change a person? It will.
yeah.
But we forget sometimes that it changes the dynamics with other people. And oftentimes you'll find yourself without the people that you started with.
I think that's such an important thing to think about as a coach as you're
Yeah.
working with this population. I will tell you that I didn't realize we started the Nutrition Made Simple podcast a few years ago. And at the beginning, I was interviewing people that had lost 100, 200 pounds and just sharing their stories and
Mm,
asked them. And every single one of them talked about the secret to their success was support system, not the coach that helped them, not the plan.
hmm.
It was like my mom kept encouraging me even when I didn't want to do it. I had my best friend, I had this person, I had that person, and it was like so important that it made me step back. And when we started making the healthy subs nutrition framework, I was like, support system has to be one big piece of this pie because it it can make or break someone's journey and their ability to have long-term success. Um, what would you say what are some things that coaches need to think about as they're starting to address support system with this population? Where do we start?
Um, Support. I don't think that you can start talking about support systems with somebody unless they're comfortable talking to you. So I always think that the first step is to get to a level of trust and rapport with your athlete because they're never going to share, like it's very doubtful that somebody's going to say, hey, I'm having marital problems because I'm coming to the gym. They're not going to tell you this
Yeah.
unless you've built that rapport with them. Um, when there's problems or an athlete is struggling, my experience with even the people that have trained in Scaled Nation, 90% of the time, it has something to do with what's going on at home. It has nothing to do with somebody struggling with, their calories this week, or somebody didn't hit their macros. Yes, there's all these little things that happen, but 90% of the time, it's something happened at home. Somebody's upset. Somebody, they got invited somewhere. They're feeling family pressure, like, oh, you're going to come to the family barbecue. What are you going to bring, a salad? That's how it starts. And then it gets to a point where they start feeling isolated. I don't feel welcome there anymore. And then it just builds and builds and builds.
I think that is the interesting thing if you just are doing fitness, right? Because you don't really have time to address all of those things. But when you're doing nutrition coaching and you're sitting down in a one-on-one setting, that there is that privacy and that safe space. You do have the ability to build rapport where they do feel more comfortable opening up a little bit faster. I think that's one of the cool things about getting into a CrossFit community is because you build that community pretty quick with other people. So it's not like, oh, well, I don't have these people anymore. I have no one.
Right. And that's why that group thing in CrossFit has been so successful for so many people, is because when they face problems over here, which count on the vast majority will, that's a good fallback for them. Like, they're building a new community over here. And these people are going to be there to support no matter what.
What are some things that you might do as a coach? Let's say you were doing nutrition coaching with someone, and there was that safe space where they felt comfortable. What are some things that you might do to help them start thinking about their support system and their journey? Because ultimately, people have to come to their own conclusions of like, hey, maybe I do need to step back from this best friend that is not really in alignment with my health and wellness goals. Not the coach saying like, hey, is this person best person for you?
I'm pretty sure that as HSN that you incorporate this from the very beginning. I think talking about support systems from the very beginning is how you best prepare your athletes, and talk about some of these things. Like, don't be afraid to talk about some of the things that people could see. So when it happens, they don't feel devastated, like, oh my gosh, this has only happened to me. And then they're not talking about it because they feel like, oh my gosh, I have this secret problem at home that I don't want to share. When in reality, what that athlete doesn't realize is this happens to the better majority. Over 50% are going to struggle with the same things. If they know that, it's going to make that, one, it's going to make the discussions with the coach a lot easier, but obviously that's how they know that they can rely on the community more and utilize that as the what's the word,
like
what's
a safe
the word I'm
space
looking
for them.
I was like, yeah. And I would say normalizing it maybe is what I'm trying to say. Normalize that these things happen, and it's sometimes no fault of the athlete. It has everything to do with, it has changed. All the dynamic has to change is one little thing, and it can start a ripple and it grows. I would just say normalizing those conversations, making it okay to say, hey, this, you could see this. It's okay if you do.
Yeah. There's so one of the things that we do with clients, and I would encourage anyone who's not an HSN coach to do this, is we have this inner circle inventory sheet where you like write down, okay, write down the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and if they're in alignment with your goals and they're going to be supportive of your goals, put an up arrow. If you're not really sure, like, don't put anything. But if they're not in alignment, if it could be like a hindrance of you, put a down arrow just so that you can see, like, how many up arrows do you have in your inner circle? How many down arrows do you have in your inner circle, so that people can see, are these people going to help me, or potentially could it cause extra friction?
I would say that's a really cool exercise. But what I would also say, when you do that, when somebody starts, just like I did, it feels like everybody's going to be on board, and everybody is on board until something happens. What we don't realize is, as coaches, what I don't want to have happen is them look at that inventory sheet and say, hey, her network is fine, I don't need to ask about that. most of those bubbles are fine when it just starts. Oh yeah, I have the most supportive network from around. I've got a friend that I've been friends with for 22 years. We are thick like that. And then within 9 months, boom, it's different. And so
Yeah.
that is something, that circle to be aware of for the coaches, that that circle is going to evolve. It has the potential to evolve drastically over a period of
Yeah.
time.
That's that's a good thing to think about. It's interesting as we're having this conversation, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the clients that this is something, okay,
Mm-hmm.
another question for you. If we have nutrition only clients, so like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the clients that come to our gym are referrals from doctors' offices. Our gym is not convenient for them to come to 3 times a week. They'll just do nutrition coaching with us. So if they don't have the support system from the gym, how do we help them? Because as a coach, you can't be the only person that's a positive support person for someone's health and wellness journey. What are some things and tips that you might say to that scenario?
We've had that scenario come up here at Scale Nation a lot, especially with aging populations that are also struggling with
Mm,
obesity. They also tend to be a little bit more isolated. They don't have as much family, and in as they get older, those friend circles start getting really small.
yeah.
They take up a lot of like community activities. They get involved in like community events. They spend more time like at the library, or they'll pick up a hobby, or we talk about these things all the time, like what are we doing to create our own little networks of people that we can interact with in that way. They have, I mean, just our town alone has little community events every single weekend. There's something going on. So that's what we encourage our people to do, is get out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because going to the library or going for a walk or, doing some type of group like that's going to be better than a
Mm-hmm.
drinking or going out, with
Something. Yeah.
other lifestyle.
Something. I mean, and it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be out of the house. There's online groups, there's
Yeah.
online support groups. I mean, there's so many things that where people can get involved,
That's
you
a
know.
that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other things that we need to think about when addressing support system?
I think the first one, I think we hit that it can evolve quickly. The second one is that it's going to change, or it could change. Say you started with your fave five, 10 months from now, that could be a brand new five. And then again, we're going through those dynamic changes on the new group as well. At whatever stage that you meet somebody and things start changing, that can happen with anybody. So I would say that that support network could potentially change multiple times over the course of you working with someone. Um, let's see. Um, Getting comfortable with asking tough questions. Like, I think sometimes coaches are afraid that they're going to be intrusive if we start asking about family and friends. But again, if we're normalizing support groups and talking to people about the importance of those and allowing people the opportunity to talk about those things or their groups as they feel comfortable, if we just normalize it from the beginning, then those get easier discussions to have. I mean, really, I think that those are I think that those are the first two, and then making sure that we're having like those support group kind of check-ins, because we know that they can change rapidly. It's never going to be one of those areas that's like, oh, they're good. No.
Check it off. Yeah, we got to keep going
No.
back.
Yeah.
If there's tension, let's say, okay, let's pretend um, I'm on my journey and I'm a part of the gym and I'm one of the larger body athletes. I've got my husband at
Mm-hmm.
home and there's tension between us.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, this has actually happened quite a few times where you've got a spouse that's doing nutrition coaching and then you've got and the husband's like, I know you're on this journey, and
Mm-hmm.
defining how you want that person to support them. So, like, I don't want my husband smacking something out of my hand if I'm not supposed to eat it. That's going to cause us tension. So, how do you address creating a safe place and like a positive dynamic of how do you want your spouse to support you in this journey? Is there something different that you might think of or you might want to encourage as a coach for larger body athletes? Because I think them even just having a space to think about what does success look like for this person to support you is really important because they can't read minds. The support system can't read minds.
No, and I think to some degree that's all we can do. I think having our athletes or our clients get really clear about what kind of what support looks like. I remember like for me, my mom used to always walk on eggshells. That's what she used to tell me. I was always walking around eggshells because she didn't know whether, if I was having something that I told her I wasn't going to, and then she saw me doing it, should she say something? Should she not? I think where the majority of problems happen is it's not defined from the beginning. Hey, here's how I need you to help support me. Like that hand smacking is a really good example because if that's not defined and somebody does it, there's a fight or there's two people that aren't friends anymore over something so small because
Yeah.
they feel violated, you know, or an invitation to give advice when that's not something that somebody asked for. Hey, I don't need you to remind me that I'm doing something that I said I wasn't going to. I'm an adult, like this is how some of those conversations evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that developing like some sort of like here's the thing that after you identify like who those close people are,
Mhm.
like helping that person work through like are they clear about the role that you want them to play in the support, how they can support you, the do's and don'ts. Everybody has boundaries, and unless their support system understands those boundaries, those problems can happen. Even when they do understand the boundaries, problems can happen, but it's when we don't talk about them. So maybe prepping them for those and being really clear to their fave fives what they need.
What are some examples of boundaries that you had, like do's and don'ts that you had, for instance?
One of mine was like reminding my family, don't tell me anything. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to tell me, hey, Athena, maybe you shouldn't have that cake. You know what I mean? Like I know what I'm doing. I'm
Hmm.
aware, and it's a
Hmm.
decision that I'm making.
Hmm. What are some ways that you what would be a good let's pretend someone comes in,
Mm-hmm.
they're a larger body athlete. They've never addressed support system at home that we've talked about it. We're thinking like, okay, this is a piece that needs to be really important. And they're like, well, what should I, where should I start? What are some things that I should want my support system to do? Like, what would be from your lens as a larger body athlete who's gone through her own transformation, her own journey, and someone that has helped other people, other coaches? What are some ways that would be really helpful for larger body athletes specifically to have support from their five?
Typically, like what I would do, just because this is kind of what we do,
Yeah.
um, we make it part of the conversation from day one. We talk about, have you thought about, um, like asking them, well, same kind of thing that we were just talking about. Like, have you thought about what your boundaries are? If somebody were to say something or do something, how would that affect you? If somebody
Mm,
were to say something about the food that you're eating, is it going to bother you? These are things for you to start thinking about. And those are the kinds of questions that you can help them navigate. Again, I feel like there's going to be uh, a delicate there's a delicate walk that you're going to have to do because there is a line between being a little too obtrusive, I think, and making sure that they understand that these things are very normal and then giving them guidance. They're going to have to navigate those waters on their own. But at least if we prep them with questions like, hey, if I don't get up and go to the gym, I don't want you saying anything. If I, and these are really good for spouses too.
hmm.
But the other part of that is that it's not just, and this is why I wanted to talk about this topic, because it's not just boundaries or, hey, this is what I need from you. there's also this navigation of what could potentially be happening with the other person. A lot of times, again, has nothing to do with us. Say, for instance, the wife decides she's going to get healthy. She's gone to the gym. She's lost 50 pounds. All of a sudden, she's feeling really good. Well, unfortunately, what can happen is suddenly the husband starts feeling very, like she's got all these friends at the gym now and she's talking to all these other people, and it can create a lot of not just hostility, but suddenly I'm self-conscious. Suddenly I'm getting paranoid, like what's going on, or this is how those things start.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's a specific set of things that we can ask them or to say, hey, here's what you can talk to your spouse about. But I think like letting them know, like these are some of the things that happen when when people lose weight. Sometimes it points out flaws in other people. Suddenly, it magnifies their own flaws. It has nothing to do with you. I think making people aware of that's what's probably happening. And we do have a sheet for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that we know helps clients be more successful is if you navigate barriers before they come up. So,
Yeah.
like when we're talking about having a balanced breakfast for any person, okay, what happens when you forget the balanced breakfast? What happens when you don't have the thing? What are you going to do? And I think the ability to talk through the what ifs so that when it happens, they feel more confident on how to navigate that scenario is only going to help them be more successful. So when I'm hearing about these boundary conversations and conversations that larger body athletes will likely have with the circle that they have beyond just the coach, it's okay, here are some things that could happen. The statistics show us what are some
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that are going to help you be successful in your health and wellness journey. And maybe it's honestly a commitment that you ask, hey, these people are supporting you right now, but in order for us to have a super successful relationship, if this changes, I need you to come back to me and let me know so that we can help you navigate those waters together.
Well, yes, and that's a good plan because when something like that does happen, a lot of people tend to revert to, old patterns. For instance, how we deal with stress. The minute that a fight breaks out or an argument or something happens, somebody's not on board, that can be enough of a trigger to send somebody to, stress eat, for instance. Like
Hmm.
there's 1,000 different scenarios.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point for sure. Anything else that you want to bring up? And then we have a couple announcements that I'm super excited about. Anything else you want to address regarding support system?
I think that um, with not just this demographic or nutrition coaching, but I think like as a community, support systems is something that's not talked about enough. I think that Christina could give a lot here when it comes to like our own mental health and just what this brings to the table and how
Mm.
this affects people when things are not right at home, they're not right with our friends. Like it can affect somebody's success, and it has nothing to do with, I mean, at the end of the day, those types of issues, this is not a calories in, calories out kind of thing. Like
No.
this support system happens to be one nuance of all of those hundreds of things that has to work together to have somebody be successful. It's a big puzzle. And the support system block is just one of them. So when somebody says, or a nutrition person thinks, well, all they got to do is follow this plan and drink their water and get their sleep. Well, not exactly.
Hmm.
It's a part, but
Yeah.
this happens to be one of 100 different things that needs to be well oiled.
Yeah. This has to be a pillar that's addressed regularly, is what I'm taking away from this conversation,
Yeah.
because it is evolving and could change.
Yeah.
The thing that I also want to challenge coaches to know is, and this is something that came up in London when I was speaking, like, how do you prevent burnout as a coach? And I think we need to know our boundaries. Like, you're not going to be able to help someone's marital problems. If someone says
Mm-mm.
this, you should have some people like, hey, that sounds really heavy. Have you considered going and
Mm-hmm.
getting, mental health help for that? Some therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some
Therapy, counseling.
people
Yeah.
that you could go that I trust that could be a good
Mm-hmm.
resource for you, and make sure that you have that network. And what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing is that network is even more important for this population because likely they will need this at some point with those dynamics that are changing with the circle that they have.
Honestly, in my opinion, a lot of, well, this is where we get back into that unique, there's 100 different veins here. And again, I think uh, Christina would agree. There's certain things that we probably don't want to go down too deep, but having those resources and having, making sure like, hey, here's a place where you can go to get this kind of help. There's going to be things in those discussions that you can't help them with, nor should we try to talk with somebody about what's going on in their marriage. I think our job as coaches is to understand that there's some issues here and there's things happening, and we need to keep an eye on this because ultimately this is going to affect somebody's success. But for us to be in a place where, we can manage that conversation and bring the husband and wife together and be prepared to do that, we can't, nor should we. I
Right.
think
So
it's
having
it's a
those
matter of
resources.
having these resources where you have your mental health people, you have your people that you can refer when these kinds of problems happen. There's 100 different resources that you can have. And this is what we talk about when we are doing the course. It's not so much about being prepared for these discussions as much as it is to make sure that you can refer the right tool to that person. That's what you need
Yeah.
to be able to help do.
Be a bridge.
Be a
Um,
bridge. Yeah.
be a bridge. You have a
Well
couple of
said.
things coming up. October
Yeah.
15th, you're coming into the HSN Mentoring family to redo essentially the breakout that you hosted at the Gym Accelerator Summit last year. There was a huge feedback. Not everyone got to listen because there was 4 different options going on. But super excited for you to come in and do that. We're going to do that on Zoom. So if you are a gym owner or nutrition coach that's looking to expand and work with this population, which hopefully every single HSN client is like, yes, this is what I want to do because it
Yeah.
should be a goal of ours. Like if our goal is to help people prevent and reverse chronic disease, like here's the population that needs
Here
so
is
much
your
help.
audience.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I think about my favorite success stories of like people that have had full life transformations, it's those people. You know,
Yeah.
being able to celebrate someone losing 100 pounds is, gosh, one of the coolest thing that I've done over the years, and
You
having the
know why?
opportunity to do
Probably
that.
because it's probably not just weight loss. When somebody loses that much weight, it changes their life on every
Yeah.
level. So you get to see
Yeah.
those thousands of little micro wins that probably happened along the way. That's what makes those kinds of things so exciting.
Yeah. It really isn't, about the weight loss. It's like, I mean, I
Mm-mm.
got to get on a plane and not have to use a seatbelt extender. I can wear my
Those are
wedding
the
ring
things,
again.
dude.
Like,
Yeah,
I have
those are
goosebumps
the
right now.
wins.
Like, those are the freaking wins that
Mm-hmm.
I think, when you are a coach or even a dietitian at the hospital, like, you don't get to celebrate these things unless you address the other 23 hours of the day outside of the
That's
gym. You
right.
just don't.
Yep.
Um, okay, so you've got this breakout coming up, and then you're coming to our HQ location to host one of the larger body athlete seminars. Jason and I, my husband and I, and one of our coaches are all going to take it. We have quite a few doctors that refer to us, and I want to be able to create a space that is super welcoming, and I want to equip our team with how to work with this population. But other coaches and gym owners, you don't have to be a CrossFit affiliate. Coach can join this seminar. What can people expect to learn?
Yeah. So the first part of our day, we're really diving into the condition. It's shocking that when we talk about obesity, we think it's one thing, but it's really probably 1,000 things. There's a lot of nuance, and that's what we're diving into. We want to make sure that, if you say you can cure it, that you actually understand what it is. And then we're doing breakouts. We're talking about, common barriers with larger bodies and where you're probably going to see more struggle with this population than you probably would in terms of movement. We're going to talk about how you can market specifically. That breakout session is kind of it's a bird's eye view into that 1 hour of the seminar. Um, and then the afternoon, we're talking about what we consider like the basics. Here's the basics that you need to know about the body, about movement. Somebody's going to move differently. Somebody's going to have to be positioned differently, their arms, their legs. So we talk about those. We talk about, and then we're really focused on movement the rest of the day. Movement specific to this population and how we get people moving in what we call like a forward direction. We call it scale forward, but really what we're talking about is progressions. Why people get frustrated, why this population would tend to quit or leave faster than any other populations, because they're not moving forward and they're not getting to do what everybody else is getting to do. So we help with that.
I'm so excited. It's going to be November 9th.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Fort Lauderdale, well, technically Deerfield Beach, just north of Fort Lauderdale. So if you have not gotten your ticket signed up for this course, gosh, you guys don't have a large group. It's 15 people, like max, that can fit into this. So it's a real small, intimate group. Join Jason and I. It's going to be so much fun. Of course, we'll be able to have conversations on health and nutrition. We're actually going to host a healthcare panel the next morning, which will be really fun, bringing in some doctors and some healthcare professionals to talk about this. When I look at the goal of serving this population, the easiest way to gain traction is through healthcare partnerships, because if you just look at the average doctor's office has 2,000 people that they see every single year, 60% of them have at least one chronic disease. Like, that's a huge funnel for you to work with this population. I know you've worked with bariatric surgeons in the past, great place to be able to expand your reach. And, when I think about gym owners and coaches, we all get in this business to help people and, help them get healthy. Like, these are the people that need our help the most. So I hope that you guys join me at CrossFit HSN, our HQ location. You'll be able to see how we integrate nutrition too. I'll give you a little tour, and we'll be able to have so much fun together on Saturday, November 9th. We'll put the link in the show notes to register for the course. Athena, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Maybe we can even give a little bit of a discount code or something for those people if they come from the podcast to register for the seminar. I didn't ask you before.
Give you guys a code. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to have you come in to HSN Mentoring to do a training virtually for our group.
I'll see you guys next week. It's going to be great.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. And, I think my biggest takeaway from this was, yes, we have to address support system, that simple activity of having people do an inner circle inventory, looking at those 5 people they spend the most time with, but then reassessing, all right, did those people change? Are those people still supportive of your clients' health and wellness goals? Support system is a bigger piece of the puzzle than you might not realize, and we have to be addressing this in order to set our clients up for long-term success. Athena has a really great perspective. If you want to learn more about her seminar, if you want to join me on November 9th, I'd love for us to connect in person and for us to all learn together. I'm personally super excited about this seminar. You can click the link in the show notes to grab that coupon code and to register today, and plan to stick around for Sunday morning, November 10th. We will have a panel discussion, more like a brunch and learn, for us to connect, talk about healthcare partnerships. I've invited some doctors that we work with to join the conversation too. So it's going to be a super fun activity and event for coaches and gym owners to be a part of. Hope you enjoyed this podcast episode, and we'll see you back here soon.